I'm too old and tired to just be bluffing, and admit it, I don't see a clear answer. That's why the left is today so moralist. Like, you know, many people who are now in the United States, and I support them, of course, democratic socialists and so on. And when I talk with them, I ask them, okay, what do you want? What do you really want? How to move outside capitalism? Is it nationalization, state takes over? Is it some kind of communal regulation of economy? How it will be done? And I never get a clear answer. Usually they squeeze out by saying something like, oh, now we have to fight capitalism, we'll see later when we will come to that point or something. Or they cling to some vague local non-representative democracy dream. You know, small communities, villages where people debate, decide everything. And here I explode. I think that this is the description of a hell for me. Sorry, I wouldn't like to live in a small community where every afternoon I would have to debate how we organize children kindergarten, how we distribute water. I think that the formula of the left should be moderate, reasonable alienation. I want some efficient, anonymous machine which somehow, in a reasonable way, state machine, whatever you want, takes care of it so that I can enjoy my isolated life. Even at the level of multiculturalism, I hate this liberal pressure. You know, we have to understand each other. Why? There are many people whom I'm not interested in understanding them and so on, you know. For example, and furthermore, how can we understand each other when we don't even understand ourselves and so on? I mean, it doesn't work. I think that isn't a true overcoming of racism, not this pressure, understand each other, but rather tolerate opacity, discretion. Like, my ideal would have been to live in a big apartment block, a small apartment there where, perfect, one of my neighbors is Native American, another black, a Chinese, an Arab, whatever you want, and we politely ignore each other. In a very respectful way, maybe miracles happen. I'm always open to them. With some of them, I become really friendly and so on, but I'm deeply suspicious of this pressure of we have to understand each other, especially when this pressure is linked to another supreme stupidity, which means politically correct wisdom, which goes something like this. I quote it in one of my books, I think Violence. An enemy is just somebody whose story you didn't hear. We are not ready. I know what's the humanist point. We fetishize the enemy. We are not ready to hear his side of the story. But this procedure clearly has a limit. Would you say that Hitler was our enemy because we were not ready to listen to his story? No. The more you listen to his story, the more you see that he really is your enemy, and so on. We have to accept this painful fact. There are enemies. And so, again, I'm here, and back to your question. Another point, the situation, if anything, today, I don't know how it is here with you. Trump talks a lot about it, but didn't do it a lot. The tragedy in Europe is that some populist right-wingers, where they are in power, even go so far as to enact measures that no social democracy dares to do today. In Poland, this Justice and Law, led by Kaczynski, the arch-conservative Catholic Party, they are the ruling party. What they did a year ago, approximately, is they lowered the retirement age, they organized better, how to call it, foundation stipends for students and so on, better healthcare and so on. Even in Italy, this disgusting populist right-wing coalition which rules now, they were the first big state which introduced some kind of, very modest, but some kind of basic income, and so on. So this is the tragedy of the left, which you can see in the United States when Bernie Sanders is now depicted as kind of a crazy madman. Trump called him, I think, crazy Bernie and so on. But look at his concrete program. Measured by the standards of Europe half a century ago, it's a very modest social democracy. What he is preaching as a radical measure was half a century ago, and this worked very well in Europe. This was the golden era of social democratic welfare state. So I don't see an easy solution here. I really think that the left today, that's the tragedy. On the one hand, we need something like, just to provoke people, I still call it communism, to confront economic crisis, to confront the threat of this digital control, to confront these wild migrations and so on. We clearly need some kind of transnational regulation which is beyond the control of market forces and so on and so on. But how to do it? Any ideas and so on? We need it, but there is no formula. You know what, for me, the true tragedy of Venezuela, yes, they screwed it up now, Maduro and so on. But I'm following there the situation for decades. Already under Chavez, he desperately experimented with all possible forms, giving a factory to the workers to run it, or not just nationalization. He played all possible games. It didn't work. I got this from my leftist friends who are doing something wonderful, very evil. When there were big news in the newspapers that factory is giving to the workers to be run by them, he just noticed it, and then a year later he went to that factory. You know? And the story, in great majority of cases, is a failure. Now, a liberal centrist would have told me, so what's the point? Drop your dreams, accept liberal capitalism as nonetheless Fukuyama position, the best that we have. I think this will not work. I'm more an apocalyptic catastrophist here. I think ecologically and so on, we are approaching a 0 point. So to cut a long story short, I'm not a Marxist determinist. I don't think a new working class, authentic proletariat will emerge as a subject. Maybe. I'm pretty desperate. Maybe we are simply approaching a catastrophe.
Okay, the catastrophe for you is your time is done for that one.
Oh, that's the best news.
We've got
you know, you are my true friend. I love to play this dirty game. My true friends are ready to play, like when I'm tired of you and don't want to debate. I like you to say your time is over, and then I can play a hypocritical game with you. I would love to talk with you for hours, but Lucy is the bad guy.